morning, everyone. This morning we are getting ready to leave the marina. This weekend was a lot of fun meeting up with our UMA family. We had about 20 patrons on board and lots of awesome stories told on the chalkboard. But today we are heading back out onto anchor, and we were looking at our options for our next route, and we were thinking either we would stay here for the next couple of days and then sail on the outside straight to Halifax, which would be what, like 600-ish miles?
Yeah, it would be probably a 5-day sail.
Yeah. Or the next option would be to go up the East River through Hell's Gate and onto Long Island Sound, which would basically break this passage in multiple smaller legs.
And it would be way more fun to go up the East River and get to sail underneath like the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge. So I think that's what we're gonna do today.
The thing with the East River, there's a really strong current that flows through. So it's important for us to check and double check and make sure we have the timing right for the tide.
It's pretty much impossible if you get the timing wrong, because the section through Hell's Gate has between a 4 and 6 knot current going through it. So even if you have a strong diesel motor, you're not going to be going through that at high tide if the current's against you. So I think we've got it timed. Everything we've read today said that around between noon and 1 the tide's supposed to be slack, which is about when we're going to start, and then we're going to have the tide kind of behind us the whole way.
Yeah.
I'm about to run out in the dinghy and just double check that.
Most people going through the East River and then through Hell's Gate motor, but for us we are going to sail through. So we had to pay close attention to the wind as well. And today the wind is going to be super favorable. So
it looks like it should be about beam reachy. The only difference between this river and all the other rivers we've sailed up is that this river has a whole bunch of skyscrapers going along the side of it. So the wind might funnel between the skyscrapers, which means we're gonna have to sort of play it by ear. We might be putting reefs in. Even though it's only blowing 12, 15 knots, we might have to reef because the wind might be funneling through.
Yeah, it might be gusting in between the buildings. We'll see.
We'll give it a try.
We'll try.
You ready?
All right, let's. Are we
I
ready
can
to go?
check. I can go check with the dinghy to see what the tide's doing.
Okay.
Looks like we're right at slack tide.
Yeah.
Like I was drifting that way ever so slightly, which means that Navionics and the other charts and predictions seem to be pretty much right on. So I think we'll probably wait like another 30 or 45 minutes for the current to kind of like pick up a little bit and then head on out of here.
You ready?
Let's rock and roll.
Yeah.
This might be our most challenging sail yet.
I'm a little bit nervous, just a little, mostly because there's so much traffic with the ferries and the powerboats and the barges that it's a little bit stressful, I guess, but I think we got it.
Plan A is we're gonna sail. Plan B, motor sail. Plan C is gonna be to like motor to Astoria just before Hell's Gate, and then anchor, and then like do Hell's Gate tomorrow.
That's true.
And then plan D, it will be like push the dinghy, I guess. I don't know, we'll see. I mean, the river's a lot wider than it looks, so I think we'll be fine.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do this.
All right, let's hoist the main, and then let's do lines and then fenders. That'll be good.
We just sailed under the Brooklyn Bridge.
This is awesome. We've got about 2 knots of current behind us, and with the sails up, we're adding about 2 knots, and we're sailing at 4 knots up the East River. It's perfect.
Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, UMA sails.
That's Roosevelt Island up there, so we need to go on that side of it.
Yeah. So we kind of do need to like start crossing at some point.
Do like a tack straight across and then tack back. and then tack before you get to Roosevelt Island. So far it looks like we're doing all right. We are currently right in front of the UN building, and we are on the west side of Roosevelt Island, about to enter the channel on the west side of Roosevelt Island. We're heading right into windward now, so rolled up so that we can just kind of drift down with the current. We still have about 3 knots of current. I've got a little bit of motor going, giving us maybe another knot and a half or so just so we can steer, but after that, we're just gonna be drifting with the current. This section right beside Roosevelt Island is why we wanted to time it with the tide, because the way the wind was coming and it's sort of funneling right on our nose. With the tide behind us, I've got the motor running like just a little bit so we can maintain steerage, but we're drifting along at 4.5, almost 5 knots, and maybe a knot and a half of that's coming from the motor. The sail's not doing much because when we're this close to all the buildings, the wind just does whatever it wants to do. So we roll up to Genoa, we just have the main up, and we're cruising right along. In about 3 miles, we'll make it to Hell's Gate, and then we're gonna turn, and it should be more beam reach downwind after that.
We're like whitewater rafting on our sailboat.
It's a good time. I used to do a lot of whitewater canoeing, so it's not really that scary. It's just fun to like feel the boat move the same way that my canoe used to move.
Yeah. It's like Tokyo drifting, whitewater rafting. So where are we now?
We're just rounding the northern tip of Roosevelt Island. We made it through just fine, and we're gonna turn a little bit, and then we're gonna shoot Hell's Gate, and we're gonna have a lot of current behind us. We have about 4.5 to 5 knots of current right now. So we might be going through Hell's Gate at 11 or 12 knots.
If we needed to, we could have stopped at Astoria. There's a little anchorage there, and if we needed to wait till the tide was more favorable to go through Hell's Gate, but so far, it looks like we're able to just shoot through it.
We're cruising, man.
We're cruising. This is fun. Sideways.
Started working again. I think that 11 knot kick maybe did that for it.
I'm managing the main sheet so that when the gust comes, I ease it, and then when the wind dies like right now, I pull it back just to make the passage is a little bit smoother and we don't get overpowered. Or else, yeah, it would be a little more difficult to keep course. Right now it's pretty good. Motor's off and we're drifting and sailing at about 7 knots straight through Hell Gate.
I think that was the last bridge we have to go underneath, and we're about 3/4 of the way officially through Hell's Gate. This island up here is the end of it, and then Rikers and LaGuardia will be on our right, and then it'll open up and the tide will settle down. There's definitely about a 4.5 or a 5 knot current behind us, and the charts say there's a 3 knot current behind us. So the charts are definitely conservative when it comes to surface current, and we're about to be all the way through, and then we're going to turn and it'll be more of a beam reach or a downwind run. So I think the worst of it's behind us. Into the Hell's Gate. 9.4 knots. Fuck, I guess I'm coming out. Gus? Beautiful. That's good.
It was a little bit stressful, not really because of the Hell's Gate part, but oh, there's a Gus. But mostly because I had to juggle filming and managing the helm and making sure that everything was.
I think you did really well. Yeah, I don't think most people even attempt that, let alone try to film it at the same time. So I think you did really good.
Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna get hit by a Gus.
Yeah, I'm heading up.
There
The
it
Gus,
is.
there it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at that.
This is intense. I honestly wouldn't recommend this to anybody.
I mean, unless they know what they're doing.
Unless you really know what you're doing. We've sailed up and down enough rivers now, I think we're getting kind of good at it. I can definitely see why most people just motor through this when it's calm, or even at slack tide, because that's pretty intense.
We're going fast, we're going really fast. The hardest part was definitely trying to manage the boat and managing the video at the same time, because we obviously, if we don't video it and you guys don't get to see it, yeah, I think for me that was the hardest part. I hope I did it justice. I hope I was able to get at least a few shots. We're now about 8 miles away from Manhasset Bay, which is where we're gonna be anchoring. So far so good.
Well, we are here. Just dropped the anchor, and we're just off one of the mooring fields back here. Everything got well. Pretty smooth ride in. The wind is coming right down the bay today, which doesn't happen very often. So tomorrow it should be nicer, but I'm hungry. That was an intense sail, and I think Kika's already passed out. Ooh, what happened in here? Looks like Kika's closet was not closed.
Yeah, my closet was open by accident. I forgot to lock it off, so everything just. And then.
When did that happen, do you think? When we came out of the last bridge?
No, when we were getting gusts back and forth. Remember?
We got like 32 knot gusts.
We got like a 30-degree gust. That's when it happened. It went just shoof, and then the door was not locked, so everything just like slammed into the door, and then just got on the other side.
Was were the head doors locked?
Yes,
Yeah.
the head doors locked. Luckily.
All right, so we started out down here at the tip of the East River. We sailed all the way up here to Manhasset Bay, and we had a pretty good run. We tacked, and then we came up here and we tacked, and then we came up here and we tacked, and then we had to go, oops, and then we had to go nose into the wind along Roosevelt Island. This is the part we sort of motor drifted. And then, yeah, and then we turned and we were like beam reaching through Hell's Gate. It was awesome. Came right around into Manhasset. Steaks are, ooh, wait. Do you want these?
Oh, these are the crab cakes.
One of our patrons brought crab cakes to our patron meetup.
Yeah.
I think we should eat these.
Yeah, let's definitely eat those. Awesome. What else?
And hot dogs. Crab cakes and pierogies. You want crab cakes and pierogies?
Yes.
Oh, it feels good to be back out on anchor and not be rolly. Being on anchor in New York City was beautiful by the Statue of Liberty, but it was it was like a workout because the boat, it felt like we were sailing. It was like crazy all the time. But now we're back in like a proper bay and a proper anchorage, and it feels really good.
Cheers to being.
Cheers to raising the threshold.
Yeah.